Now here we go. Yesterday's draw with Leicester leaves Forest with an absolute mountain to climb. Well, I'm not sure it's a mountain to climb. Just need to win 2 games. And the race for the Champions League football, just 1-1 in 6. That's the worrying thing, Gabby, for Nuno's side.
Yes.
Just 1 in 6. That's not good, mate. The point did confirm their place in Europe next season, though. That's a massive bonus, despite many predicting, myself included, them to be in a relegation scrap. So how did their owner celebrate? By storming onto the pitch to confront the manager, apparently very, very angry and not happy at all over a confusion with the substitutes. Here's what the manager made of it after the game.
Comes for the situation that unfortunately in the last 10 minutes we had 1 man less, with situation of the not able to give us a hand to the team, to help the team, because we were too much in pain, and that's because that came from a bad communication between departments, our coaching staff and medical department. They had the info of one thing, it proceeds, we make the sub. Unfortunately then have another stoppage time, and after that I think 30,000 people that were in the stadium were really upset, rightly so.
Yeah, it wasn't a good look, there's no doubt about that. So we're going to get your thoughts of talkSPORT reporter and a massive Forest fan, Max Scott. Max, good morning, mate. How are you?
Good morning, Max.
Yeah, I'm doing well, thanks, boys. Morning.
Good, Max. Thanks for coming on, pal. Max, I don't care where that was. I mean, I just thought that was embarrassing yesterday, wasn't it?
Yeah, I don't think it's befitting of an owner of any football club, but particularly the football club that I support and care about. But we've got used to it, haven't we? You know, we're used to these outbursts. It's become sort of a characteristic of Forest. And like I said, I don't think it's a good look. But ultimately, you know, he was as annoyed as any fan about the way that sort of last 8 minutes of stoppage time was treated. Taiwo was bent double around the post. It was like a cartoon moment, and he clearly shouldn't have been playing. And so he's right to be frustrated, but do that behind closed doors, because it undermines Nuno, who still, for me, is in for manager of the season. He's got Forest to Europe, which, by the way, is what we should be talking about. That is like joy in the city. We're going to Europe. Amazing. Yes, we've fallen off it. But if you can't beat Leicester at home, if you can't beat Brentford at home when it matters, you don't deserve Champions League. So save that conversation for, you know, the office. That's what I'd say.
I think as well, there's a lot of fans saying, I wish my owner showed that passion. That's not passion.
Yeah.
Passion maybe when you're behind the scenes and you're showing your passion there. You're an owner, get off the pitch. Look at the Europa League, for instance. If Nottingham Forest do finish Europa League, you got 16th and 17th in the Premier League in the final. Forest have got every chance of going to win Europa League next season if they recruit and keep the right players.
I totally agree, Abby. And look, I think you've got to take the rough with the smooth with Marinakis, because what you cannot deny that he has turned this club around with his investment. And so, yeah, I don't like it. Yeah, it's not a good look. You know, if some people like it because they think it's passion, then they can say that. But one thing I do know is, whilst there might be the odd outburst and the odd tweet or coming onto the pitch, he will invest into the club and take it to the next level. And I'm not going to sort of, you know, and we appreciate that as a city as well. And it's just one of those strange things that it seems to be he seems to be bringing it into the Premier League, which we don't want to see. But look, we're in the Europa League next season, probably. I think we'll just need a point or so to get that. And no doubt he'll be chucking cash at the squad to improve it, because that's one of the things we've seen. Teams have worked us out a little bit. Ultimately, we've got a squad of about 13, 14 players that actually play. And with Hudson-Odoi out, Murillo out, it's clear that we've run out of steam, and we need to invest so that we've got more depth in the squad. And Marinakis will do that, no doubt.
Max, I've got to say to you, mate, and I hope you don't mind me saying so, you sound a little bit as if you're resigned to Europa League football next season. Mate, I've got to remind you, you win. Is it West Ham you go to? If you win at West Ham and you beat Chelsea at home, you finish with 68 points, mate. Surely that might be enough to get you Champions League football.
It might be enough. No, you're not wrong, but the context is, Ali, I think, for how Forest fans feel, we've been in the top 3 for months. And since the Everton game, or certainly since the Brentford game at home, we lost both those games, there's felt like an air of inevitability. Precisely for the reasons I've said. They're running out of legs a little bit because there's injuries in a really small squad. And so I don't mind if we don't. Obviously, I'd be disappointed if we don't get Champions League because we've been there for so long. But my overwhelming feeling is one of joy. I get to follow my team around Europe.
Good for you.
I remember watching Forest in League One. You know, and you look at just the difference between Forest and the teams around them in terms of squad costs, particularly the amount of money being spent in January. And I'm not criticising other clubs for doing that. Villa have had an absolute worldie of a January.
Yeah.
You know, Chelsea somehow have managed to turn it around when nobody expected them to.
I think as well, Max, I think as well, people forget that even though, for instance, Nottingham Forest on the 2nd of April, they were 10 points clear of 6th place, but it's a 38-game season.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
like the last 6 games, you've only got 5 points out of 18. You know, them losses to Everton and Brentford, but it's a 38-game season. Do you know what I mean? You might have your unlucky form drops near the end of the season. That happens. So it's been an outstanding season. You can still make it if results go your way over the next 2 games. And if not, Nottingham Forest fans are getting to go around Europe supporting their team in a competition that's not as strong as it used to be because Champions League teams don't drop into it. So you never know next season. You could be in a knockout stage of a Europa League.
Totally agree. If United and Spurs can get there with the greatest respect to them,
you're not wrong.
Then why can't Forest? And we've got that sort of history behind us of Europe that I think will motivate the squad, motivate the players, motivate the fan base.
Imagine home games in Europa League under the lights.
It's gonna be incredible. Well, I'm thinking about those away nights, and it might not be an away night in Madrid, but I'll take an away night in Bodo. You know, I've been following Forest in League One. I've been following Forest in the Championship, almost getting relegated, failing in playoffs. Whatever happens now is a cherry on top.
Agreed.
I've got to say, Max, I think I don't think there's any doubt you'll be speaking for the vast, if not all, of the Nottingham Forest fans. Yeah, well said. How do you want to see it ended now between the manager and the owner? Do you want to see a public get-together, a show of unity? Because it was poor, wasn't it?
I didn't like it, but I think there was unity after the game with Nuno's comments. You know, he said that there's so much that the city has to thank for Marinakis, and that's true. And I didn't like the look of it, but I don't think that it was some serious Barney that they had. They weren't neck and neck. And I don't think actually he was sort of having a go at Nuno. I think he was having a go at the situation. How on earth has this happened? And he's right in that regard. He's wrong to do it on the pitch.
Do you know what I first thought, to be fair? I first thought when I seen it, I thought, please don't tell me he's having a go at Nuno for not beating Leicester. And then when you wait a little bit and you hear that it's about the injury, then you're like, okay, still shouldn't do it. Not right, but at least he's not having to go at the manager for not getting the win.
Yeah, so I don't expect to see, I don't need to see anything because we know the owner. We know that he's passionate. We know that sometimes spills over in ways that we don't want to see. But ultimately, he's our owner and he's got us to this point. So I just want to forget about it now and move on and finish the season strongly.
Absolutely, Max. Well said. Well spoken, pal. Your team's
Thanks, fellas. Have a good one.
You too, mate.
talkSPORT Breakfast, waking you up Monday to Friday morning from 6 a.m. on AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.